Greetings, greetings. This is FitSpaz Recovery. I am Paul, the producer. I'm here to help get you fit, stay healthy, and stay sober. So, what's going on today, everybody? I am having an interesting day. It's Wednesday, and I just got back from my Marijuana Anonymous meeting. That's what I do on Wednesday nights. And it was interesting as usual, for me. I didn't think I was going to wind up speaking, and then I wound up speaking a little bit at the end, and I'll basically tell you the story that I told them, that a couple times in the past week, I was out and about in one form or another, and I smelled marijuana when I was out. People were definitely smoking it in public, which I don't really have a problem with that from a legal standpoint. I think it should be legal, and people should be allowed to do that, whatever. It doesn't bug me. So the first time was on Saturday. I was with my daughter, and I was downtown with my daughter, with my sister, with a friend of my sister, and my sister's friend's daughter, who is about 5. She's a year younger than my daughter, and we were walking through this park downtown called Confluence Park, and as we were going around on this pathway, I was like, oh, I caught the major downwind of some marijuana smoke, and I was like, oh, golly. Like, let me tell you something about me being a marijuana addict. It's that I smell it, and I like the smell of it. I'm not like someone who's like, oh, yeah, it smells gross, I don't like it. I like the smell. There's no other drug in the world that I smell, and it has that kind of impact on my mind. Like, definitely, it woke me right the hell up. It was very skunky smelling. It was the type of marijuana I know if I smoked it, I'd be getting super ultra high. I could just tell from the smell, and I was preoccupied walking through the park after that, like, oh, does he have it? Does she have it? Where is it? And so, of course, I didn't do any, but definitely, another occasion was yesterday. I was going to Walmart because I got a thing called a veggetti, which takes zucchini and makes noodles out of it. And because I'm trying to clean up my nutrition, and so instead of having pasta noodles at home, sometimes I'm gonna just like make zucchini noodles and then eat that because it's cleaner and it's not carbohydrates. But anyway, I digress. I was walking through the parking lot after being in Walmart, and I caught the downwind again there. And so I'm looking around like, somebody around in this parking lot is smoking. And I saw someone with their window down, and sure enough, how you doing there, smoker? No, so again, I don't have a problem with it insofar as the law. I think it should be legal to do that, smoke in public. But of course, here in Colorado, it's legal, and however, public consumption is not legal. But my whole point that I'm leading to is that this is why I know that I cannot be around pot smokers. I can't go to a party where there's just going to be a ton of wild open pot smoking, because it rattles my brain so much that I can't say no to it. And some people might say, dude, that's pathetic. And maybe it is pathetic, or maybe not. I don't know. I think that's the nature of addiction. It's also the nature of my relationship to weed. I've always said, even when I was smoking it all the time, I would say I have a love-hate relationship with it. And so smelling it is a big risk to me. I like the smell of it. It triggers my mind to want it. It triggers my mind into thinking like, oh, what it would be like to get high. It triggers my mind into thinking if I were at that party and someone handed me a bowl, it's just like, bam, such an automatic old habit that there I go. And it takes that long to break my streak of not smoking, and then I'm back into the old ways. And some people might say, yeah, but it's not addictive and you don't have to do it. But you know what? For me, I've experienced it enough in my life to know that I don't have control of the habit. It becomes too often, too frequent, and too much in control of my life. I don't want to be a slave to it. But even like I was saying at the meeting tonight, I can't discipline it to once a day. I can't discipline it to to once a week, once a month, like that. It just doesn't work like that. And once I take that hit, I am going to wind up opening a Pandora's box where, like, let's say I do it once the first day. Then I wait a few days and I do it again. Then it's the day after. Then it's the day after. Then it's midday. Then it's in the evening. Then it pretty soon consumes full time. And it's like, well, here I am back where I didn't want to be again. And you know what? For me to smoke and quit again, I basically have to fall back to hell all the way and become miserable again in order to have the mindset like, okay, now I'm going to quit again. Here I am, and now I'm going to quit again. So what a mistake it is. So, but intellectually I know this, right? But my mind will play tricks on me. My mind tells me, like, oh, it's going to be okay. You can do it. You can keep it under control. And it's like, not the case. And it frustrates me how there's this big argument, and it's a spiteful argument, and it's a hateful argument. And what I'm talking about is the debate over whether marijuana is addictive or not. And I do think it's profoundly habit forming. The way that it changes your state of mind, the way that it introduces euphoria into your mind. How could it not be addictive? And people will get into an argument about, well, it's not chemically addictive. And okay, fine, it's not chemically addictive, but that doesn't mean that it's not so habit forming that when you quit, they want to say, like, there's no such thing as withdrawal. This is a big debate between people. But to me, the honest to God truth is that, yeah, you go off it. If you're used to smoking it all the time, you're experiencing anxiety. I'm irritable, very irritable. I have cold sweats. I'm not sleeping right. I don't have an appetite for days. It could take 3 or 4 days for my appetite return. It takes about 7 to 10 days for me to start feeling almost kind of sort of normal, where my mind isn't dwelling on it hardcore. And what I have to do in those first 7 to 10 days to get over it is really just pour myself into escapism. The last couple times I did it, it was like TV time. I find something to watch that I'm really into, and somehow my mind is able to forget the fact that I'm not smoking marijuana for the moment and just be into that TV program, that storytelling. And again, I hear these voices of critical people saying, that's pathetic, that's pathetic. Well, that's what addiction is. I'm sitting here saying I recognize it. It doesn't make me proud, but it's like it's such a costly mistake, that one moment when you slip up and you smoke, especially for a guy like me who doesn't want to. And every time I've done that, I've been, for the longest time, on all the occasions that I quit smoking marijuana, several times here and there throughout all the years of my habit, 6 weeks here and there, a month here, 2 months there, one time 5 months. In about 2005, I quit for 5 months, and the common thread of me falling back to it is drinking. And so that's what's different about this time around, is I gave up drinking, and I miss drinking. I miss drinking, people. I was driving down to the meeting tonight, and I saw this sign, and I don't remember the name of the tavern, but it was like such and such tavern. And I'm like, aw, tavern. And then I'm like, yeah, tavern. I love that word tavern. That word tavern makes me want to drink. And then I think, so does the word pub. Pub makes me want to drink. When I hear pub, I want to go to England and I want to have a beer. Do you know what I mean? And so, yeah, drinking is the ultimate gateway drug for me. And I can contrast the two like this. When I smoke marijuana, I'm like, oh, geez, I'm really high. I don't need or want anything else right now. No, I don't want to drink. No, I don't want any of these other drugs. This is just enough. I'm high on marijuana, and that's enough. But when I'm drunk, the ultimate gateway drug is like what I call it. When I'm drunk, it's like my morals can go right out the window, And it's like, oh, you got cocaine? Okay, let's do cocaine. Woohoo! Oh, hey, you got some shrooms? Or hey, you got some acid? Let's do that. It's like, practically speaking, there are so many things. My whole logic system, my wisdom is right out the window when I'm drunk. And again, I'm hearing people's voices in my head saying, that's pathetic. You're pathetic. And it's like, I'm being honest. I'm being real. That's the nature of addiction. Every drug is different. And to me, alcohol is the common thread why so many times when I've quit smoking marijuana, I have fallen back into it. It was the trigger for me to be like, you know what, here, okay, yeah, let's do this. And so I avoid alcohol and I miss alcohol. In certain social situations, I feel like I'm handicapped not having it to fall back on to feel comfortable. And even recently, like I've explained on here before. And so on one hand, that's sad. And on the other hand, I'm really proud and I feel distinguished to get clean because there was a time in my life, as I've said on here before, when I was just doing whatever, whenever I wanted. The most regular things I ever did were alcohol and marijuana, of course. Marijuana being my number one drug of choice. If you were like, if you're on a desert island and you can only have one drug, it's like, well, give me marijuana, dude. That'll pass the time. You know, it'll make me too lazy to hunt. It'll just be like a lazy suicide where I sit on the beach like, and then I'll get hungry and be like, I gotta catch some fish or something. Anyway, digressing again, let me tell you that even though I brought up a handful of other drugs, several of these other things like shrooms, mushrooms, and cocaine, and various other things. I'm trying to think what the hell else. DMT I tried once. What my point is, these were not things I tried a lot. They were all way too intense, and I was like, oh, no, 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 thank you. And cocaine was so uneventful for me. I describe it as having caffeine without having to go pee incessantly. And so that's how I describe that experience. And like, it wakes me up. It makes me able to drink a lot without falling over drunk. But as far as experiencing euphoria, that's like, wow, this is amazing. I've never tried that before. I believe I was told something I tried in college once was opium. I have reason to believe that it was, and it was very tranquil. And I didn't have it more than once, I don't think. And so pretty much I've tried DMT once, which was like the most outrageous drug experience I ever had. But alcohol was really responsible for fueling all of this type of experimentation. It wasn't like weed made me go, oh, hey, this makes me want to try other stuff. On the contrary, it's alcohol that lowers the inhibitions for all kinds of things. Yeah, might as well have a little musical backdrop, right? So the big point I was making it to is it's after smelling marijuana in the park, I realized how vitally important it is for me to avoid situations and people where I'm exposed to that smell. And the shame of that is, the sad thing for me is I do have friends who I like and appreciate, and I can't hang out with them because of their pot use. And so that's sad for me. I miss people for that reason. But I also know that this is what's best for me in terms of my mood. Like I've told you guys before on here, that my mood is most stabilized consistently over long spans of time when I just eliminate drugs of any sort from the equation of my life. I find something that's much more peaceful and calm. I mean, I'm telling you, if you saw me start smoking weed every day, you'd notice that my temperament is a lot more hot, cold, really fast. And I can't say that meditation gives me the amazing, entertaining feeling, but it gives me it. I'm training my body to be able to cultivate an attitude of relaxation and patience. And patience is an interesting topic. The patience was the topic at the meeting tonight. And of course, I'm not going to divulge anything anyone else said about it, just that I have issues with patience sometimes, and that's why it's such an important focus for me in my morning meditation routine. There are things that can make me fly off the hand. You know what? I'm the type of guy, you can walk all over me for a long time, but there comes a point where I literally snap and I'm like way overboard, having a disproportionate response. I'll tell you what, I'm so sick of my backwash problem. Excuse me. I'm taking a drink of water for you podcasters who can't see me out there. I have issues with patience, and God knows, I remember even in high school, people were like, "Wow, you're really calm. You're patient." People told me that, and what they didn't know was there's this line in the sand with me. Like, you push me enough, and you cross that line, and I snap. I've lashed out and clobbered people when I was younger, and I still feel like I have that in me. There are certain triggers that will make me go off on somebody, and I'm not bragging. This is not a virtue. This is like definitely not a virtue. And so patience, I've had patience issues driving, but I've learned to cope with driving by just entertaining myself and accepting it is what it is. That's the reality we live in. I don't have control of it. So I listen to a lot of good podcasts. Today I've been listening to Gary, what's his name? I think it's Gary Vanderchuck is his name. I listen to Chalene Johnson all the time. Those are two of my main go-to podcasts for self-improvement. More so Chalene. I've just started getting into this Gary guy, and he's interesting, he's amusing, has a little bit of an ego, but he does seem like a nice man. Like, he shares his knowledge, and I like all that. I heard a lot of good stuff listening to him today. I've mentioned the name Alex Jones on here, and I mentioned Fox News and MSNBC. It's political season, right? We're electing a new president in the fall, and so I'm listening to these things to try and be informed, which is really hard when they're all just propaganda machines, except for Alex, who I think is the most honest of them all. But nonetheless, it's dark. And what I was going to say is, relating it to patience, is I've been avoiding these things more because politics is a source of turmoil for me. I get upset, like I said last week. And so I've been consciously turning it off and trying to turn on things that I know are more positive and redeeming. And not that awareness of political issues isn't positive. It's just that I already feel aware. So I don't need to indulge in negative, dark political talk. So I avoid that because it does test my patience. My relative in my family posted this graphic that was like a political logo in red, white, and blue, and it said, "They all suck, election 2016." And I was like, yeah, that's pretty much right. You always get pegged when you criticize a given political candidate. They're like, oh, well, then he must be on the other side of the only two political spectrums they are. And that frustrates the crap out of me. So now I'm getting political. Okay, I'm going to let that political go. Let that political go. I've been working out still. I'm very happy to say I'm over halfway through this program, Hammer and Chisel. It's been so extremely grueling and hard. I've been pushing myself so hard to up weight and improve with my performance, and I am just a sweat fest doing these workouts. I mean, I'm sweating my butt off, and my heart is like boom, 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 and I'm breathing like a madman. And it's really hard when I start them out, and it's like 40 minutes of hell, 45 minutes of hell. Oh, except for the warm up and the cool down. You have like maybe 5 minutes left, 5 minutes of the thing that's not overboard hard. Today I did something called Chisel Balance, and I pushed hard and I improved, and holy crap, there are parts of this that are so hard. I think this is the hardest workout and the least desirable workout in the entire program. But So I start with medium enthusiasm, and let me tell you, this is why exercise is such a great way to replace drug use with a good habit. It's like medium enthusiasm starting out, push extremely hard, experience some discomfort, some frustration, because it's like, oh, make me laugh. You're making me miserable, make me laugh. And then, like, when I'm done, I'm like, hell yes. I feel amazing for doing this. And that's why I put it in your face all the time how this is one of the best free ways to empower yourself, to make yourself feel in control of something in your life, whether you do drugs or not. Of course, you get in better shape, you look better, you might lose weight, you might gain muscle mass, like I know I have. It's just a phenomenal feeling, and I want other people to be part of my team doing that. Let's get going together, people. Can we? Should we? Shall we? Let's get going together. Anyone out there who hears me, I'd love it if you just say, Paul, yeah, dude, I want to do some kind of exercise. What do you recommend? I can recommend all kinds of programs from Beachbody. I can also recommend how to get started without doing anything you have to pay for. And I always say this. I'm like a broken record, and I'm always going to say this. Get up and go for a walk. I don't want to hear, I don't like to walk. I love walking, okay? I have a great lake right by my house. I walk around that thing. I put on a little Jethro tull, and I'm like, oh, wow, this is like heaven. For half an hour, I don't have any problems. I don't have the underlying frustration that I'm always trying to, keep myself occupied not to feel. I just feel good. And you will too if you give yourself a chance and get into it. I'm telling you, once it's a habit, it's wonderful once it's a habit. I gave myself way too hard of a time last week when I just skipped a day and I did the workout scheduled for that day the following day. And it was a week ago today that I did that, in fact. I skipped my workout and then did it the following day. And then I was like, why did I give myself such a hard time for that? It's okay sometimes to give yourself a break too. And I'm a unique case. I challenge myself with extremely hard workouts these days because I want to get bigger, I want to get stronger, I want my cardio to improve. I'm really looking for these I'm like, I want to be an athlete. And I'm like 42 years old, washed up. I'm gonna compete in the Olympics as far as I'm concerned. But really, it's all about me just wanting to push myself to a new level that's higher and higher. You don't have to do that for exercise to feel good. That's why I recommend walking. It's so easy and peaceful, and it's the kindest thing you can do for your body. You're like least likely to get injured walking than anything else, in my opinion. It's such low impact, and it's so peaceful and tranquil. Why wouldn't you want to do that? I just don't understand why people don't want to do it. So excuses make me insane, okay? If you hear an excuse coming out of my mouth, I swear to God, call me out on it. But furthermore, the difference between me and so many excuse makers out there is I'm all, yep, it's an excuse. And I'm critical of myself, at least insofar as, hey, I know this is an excuse and I'm going to change my behavior. I have other things I'm making excuses about I'm not going to tell you about right now. But I know it. Darn it. I know what I'm doing when I'm making an excuse. I'm not deluding myself. And I'm not going to delude you either. You see me making an excuse. If you think I'm deluding myself, call me out on it because I want to know, okay? And I'll tell you straight up if I am or I'm not. But the whole bottom line is, I think I'm honest along these lines. And I guess I'll end with that point. Like, so much of life and making the right decisions boils down to us being honest with ourselves. Like, when we have a problem with something, don't hide it, don't deny it. How do you expect to develop or grow past it or become more wise if you're just a denial machine? You're going to wind up hurting yourself more. Denial hurts you, okay? But I'm not saying, let me just also say, I hear people say, like, are you the type of person to be quiet when you disagree with someone? And you know what? I'll say, sometimes I am. Because you have to pick and choose what you're fighting for carefully. You don't have to blurt out your opinion every, just like politics. I scroll through my Facebook feed and I'm like, yeah, I disagree with what they're saying, but I don't get into arguments with people. If you like Hillary Clinton, I'm not going to start an argument with anybody. I'm just not. If you like whatever, whoever you like, I'm usually not chiming in. Sometimes I chime in on Paul Joseph Watson's feed, but my point is I try to be as honest as possible when there's a benefit to that honesty. And I also try to withhold my honesty if and when it means I might have a futile argument or it might lead to hurting someone or being negative. That's really the point I'm trying to get to is honesty is so important when it boils down to you discovering something about yourself that must change. Being honest and being real with yourself, it's the first step in the right direction. Admitting you have a problem. How often have I heard that? Okay, I want to say one more thing before I start wrapping it up here. It's that I don't consider myself an expert in any of these things. I think I have some valuable wisdom to offer people based on my experience. I haven't gone to school to learn anything about. How very odd. I haven't gone to school to learn anything about addiction. I have read books and I've done a tremendous amount of reading on it myself. And I'm just honest with myself because a lot of it, in my opinion, does come from a common sense basis. But I don't bill myself as an expert like, I'm an expert, Dr. Paul. Not at all. I'm just somebody who's just trying to be honest and real and trying to reference my natural wisdom that I think I have. So yeah, I'm not an expert. I wouldn't feel comfortable claiming that I'm an expert. I'm not saying I don't have expertise in certain areas, but drug addiction, I would not call myself an expert. I'm just somebody who's like, I think I have empathy for people who are suffering. I have experience with it, and so that leads me to believe that when I talk about it, others are going to identify somehow. And that's really all I want to say tonight. But let me just put on my closing theme here. Oh yes, everybody. And so let me just tell you again, I'm Paul, and this is FitSpaz Recovery. And you can go to fitspaz.com to find out more. You can also subscribe to the podcast in iTunes, subscribe in Stitcher if you're on an Android phone, or you can subscribe to the YouTube page. All that you can find at fitspaz.com. I want to graciously thank Kevin MacLeod for the amazing musical backdrop that I am so grateful for using in this show. It's this music you hear in the background. And I'm always going to be switching it out to try and keep it fresh. I want to change out that intro song again. But thank you to him. Go to incompetech.com to find out more. And that's pretty much all I have to say. I don't know when I will talk to you next. There's a good chance it might be this weekend because my daughter will not be with me and I'll be looking to fill time. And this makes me feel good. It's therapeutic and whatnot. And she comes to me tomorrow. I'm looking forward to seeing her. I just love it. She's always like, before we go to bed, she's like, what was your favorite part of the day? And always my favorite part of the day when she's with me is something having to do with her. So what a joy it is to have her come with me. That is one of my blessings. That's the top number one thing I am grateful for every morning when I begin rattling off the list of things I'm grateful for in my head. And I go into a whole spiel. I have my whole template of things I say, think, and feel about her when I'm meditating and praying because it's such a special experience having a daughter, So I'm grateful for that, and I figured I'd share that with you guys. I'm very lucky, very grateful, very blessed in that regard. So I hope you are too. And I will catch up with you all next time. I hope you're having a lovely day. Have a lovely week, everybody. We'll talk to you soon. Truly, though, excuses make me positively mental. Be honest with yourself. When there's a problem, attack that problem. Because if you want to move ahead in life, if you want to grow, Every time you're being dishonest with yourself, when you have a flaw, a fatal flaw that's getting in your way, it's always going to be a roadblock. So be honest with yourself about whatever that is, and I will catch up to you guys next time.